of cameras set up because we stream on all these different platforms. So we've got to get everything set up. Then we have to do Instagram is separate. It's just weird. I don't know why Instagram doesn't go with everybody else. They don't play nice. So that's how to dig on Instagram, just saying that we've got to use a different camera for them. So John gets that camera set up. And in the meantime, I will then get ready to go as soon as John gives me the thumbs up. Please get ready. We have two 24-minute segments, so get ready. Have yourself a nice glass of water, maybe some supplements, and we're going to give you a lot of good information today. It's a fun one today. We're going to talk about diets because everybody seems to have these questions about diets, and they don't know what diet to do, and so we're going to discuss all that. So John is still working on that. He will give me the thumbs up when we're ready. We're ready? Okay, we're ready to go. All right, so if you're new to the show, folks, what happens is I talk for 24 minutes. At the end of 24 minutes, you, whatever platform you're on, can type in any health question you might have, anything. John, my producer behind the cameras there, will then read me the questions. I will then answer your questions if I have an answer. I usually do. If I don't, that's okay. And then we'll move on to the next 24 minutes, and then I'll do questions again. So you have two opportunities to ask your questions, but this is an amazing opportunity to get those tough questions that nobody else can seem to answer. We're pretty good at answering them. So we're going to start, and then after 24 minutes, I'll answer your questions. So whenever you're ready to go, John. Okay, we got to get our timer set up. And let's see. I got to see the timer behind the camera. Ready? Hey, folks, Dr. Joe Esposito here. Glad to be with us today. Today, we're going to talk about these fad diets that everybody's talking about. You've heard about the ketogenic diet and the intermittent fasting and the vegan diet and the Mediterranean diet. What really works? Now, all of them have pros and cons. And so it depends what your goals are. But many times people have a goal of, let's say, lose weight. Well, there's certain that one of them I'm going to talk about today. Great for losing weight. However, dramatic negative effects on your health. So do you want to take that risk? I wouldn't. But we're going to talk about that. There is one diet, double-blind studies, that have clearly shown to be the best diet there is. And we're going to talk about that too. But that's a tease. You know, if in the radio business and the TV business, that's a tease. Tease is you got to keep listening to find out what the ultimate diet is based on science. Not based on my opinion, totally based on science. So let's start with the ketogenic diet. The ketogenic diet, high fat, low carb, and it puts you into a state of what's called ketosis. So your body right now, most of us, are burning glucose as our fuel. So whenever you eat something, it can, if you need it as a fuel, it's going to convert into glucose. So there's different types of sugar. Glucose is one of the types of sugar. There's fructose, maltose, galactose, lactose. Anything with OSE on the end has to be converted into glucose, and then glucose is what we use in our cells. If you don't have enough glucose or stores of glucose called glycogen, your body then starts using ketones. Now, short-term use may not be a bad idea. It was originally put out, it was really done for people having seizures, epilepsy. And we found that we took them off carbohydrates and put them on a ketogenic diet, the seizures seemed to get a little better. But there was a side effect. And the side effect was that people started to lose weight. And so they said, oh, wait a minute, if we put people on a ketogenic diet, we can use it as a weight loss protocol. Okay, I get it. Not a bad idea. But there's a cost to that. So the ketogenic diet, 75% fat. So that's why you're eating things like avocados, you're eating butter, you're eating olive oil. 25% protein, and they usually talk about it as an animal protein because that's high in fat. So meat, butter, cheese, yogurt, eggs, ice cream. And then only about 5 to 10% of your diet as carbohydrates. So when this came out, very popular. People loved it. I get to eat steak and butter, and I'm loving it. But long term, we started realizing increases the risk of brain issues, increase the risk of heart disease, increase the risk of diabetes long term, depending on type of fat you're eating. And so we realized that maybe wasn't the best thing. So the pros are rapid weight loss. But the thing is, you're losing a lot of water, and you don't eat as much. So a lot of the weight you lose on a ketogenic diet initially is going to be just water weight. You can eat celery and pee out water weight too if you want to. That works pretty well too. It can improve insulin sensitivity for people with type 2 diabetes, which means it stabilizes their blood sugar. Why? They're not eating glucose, and glucose causes the body to release insulin. And insulin, if you remember my shows, insulin goes into the cell, and insulin is like a key. It goes into the cell and opens up the cell, goes into a keyhole, opens up, and allows glucose in. If you don't have a lot of glucose, you don't need a lot of insulin, the cells become calmed down and not as sensitive to insulin, and so that's a good thing. However, it depends on the type of fat that you're eating. If you're eating a lot of omega-6 fatty acids, that would be vegetable oils, corn, canola, soy, cottonseed. These omega-6 fatty acids can actually worsen diabetes. In fact, sugar is bad for diabetics. Omega-6 fatty acids, these seed oils, are worse. Because what it does, it kind of clogs up the keyhole so the insulin can't get in to open it up so the sugar floats around in your blood. So short term, if you're not eating a lot of sugar, great. When you start reintroducing carbohydrates into your body, the keyholes are clogged up. And so long term can make it worse. It can reduce the seizures like we talked about, and it can also help improve your cholesterol levels. But if you listen to my lectures on cholesterol, it's not the cholesterol floating around in your blood that's so bad. It's the cholesterol stuck to the artery walls. And when cholesterol is stuck to the artery walls, it's called oxidized cholesterol. And the cholesterol stuck to the artery walls is the bad stuff. You can have a heart attack or a stroke and have normal cholesterol levels. You can have high cholesterol levels and not have a heart attack or stroke. Because again, it's not so much the cholesterol floating around in the blood, it's what's stuck to the artery walls. So when you do your blood work, again, I'm going off on a tangent here. When you do your blood work, check your homocysteine. Homocysteine is an amino acid that essentially, real simple, scratches the artery walls and causes inflammation, which then causes the cholesterol to stick to the artery walls. So homocysteine is a better indicator than your cholesterol levels. Or do both. Again, I have no problem doing tests. And then you take all this information, you put it together, and you say, what works best? That's why you have to be an investigator as a good doctor. You don't just say, high cholesterol, take drugs. Well, what's my homocysteine level? What's my A1C level? How much inflammation is there in the body? Have you done a scan to see if the cholesterol is even stuck to the artery walls or just looking at my blood work? You need all this information to make a good decision. So I did a show on cholesterol. If you go to my website, drjoe.com, drjoe.com, just type cholesterol in the search bar, did a whole show on cholesterol. So that's the pros. Let's talk about the downside of this ketogenic diet. When you start out, you may get something called the ketogenic flu. And what that means is you get headaches, fatigue, nausea, you feel really, really, really sick. It's restrictive. It's not designed for long-term use. Well, it is designed for long-term use, but it's not healthy to use for long-term use. So what will happen is if you come off this, many times you gain the weight back, the water weight comes back, and you actually end up worse than you were. So that's a downside. You're also worried about nutritional deficiencies. One of the big nutritional deficiencies is fiber. Now, if you talk to people who do it the right way, so to speak, you're eating a lot of vegetables. So that's going to solve the vitamin A, vitamin C, vitamin B, vitamin K issues and the fiber issues. The problem I see with people on a ketogenic diet is they forget that part. You should be eating salad every day. You should be eating broccoli every day, at least eating the green leafy vegetables. They're not. Why? Because a steak with butter sure tastes good. Absolutely. I don't remember it. It's been 40 years since I've had one, but I think I recall that they tasted good. But there's that downside of nutritional deficiencies. That's why if you're going to do this, please, I'm begging you, please take supplements. Dr. Joe's Super Greens, Dr. Joe's Essential Source would be the minimum supplements. I would take glutathione to help clean out my liver. I would take vitamin D3 with K2 to make sure calcium doesn't build up in my blood system, or else that can cause problems as well. It's not ideal for athletes because you can go into ketosis and burn ketones, but I call it dirty fuel. Doesn't burn as well as carbohydrates do, as a good glucose does. Now, some people argue that point. This is my research shows. So athletes on a ketogenic diet, probably not a good idea. Also, you're going to have horrible breath. You'll probably get constipation with it. So there's a lot of downside socially for that as well. It can increase your bad cholesterol levels over time, and that's the cholesterol, the low-density lipoproteins that actually oxidize and stick to the artery walls. And there's also social limitations. I'm just going to eat steak every time I go out, steak and broccoli. You can probably do it. Also, high-protein, animal protein diet can put a big strain on your kidneys. And when I first got in practice, I never saw a patient with kidney issues. Now I see 3 or 4 a week. Patients coming in, kidney failure, stage 2, 3, 4. A lot of people with kidney issues, kidney stones. In fact, I was at the radio station the other day, and I'm on a commercial break, and one of my coworkers comes running in, and he goes, Dr. Joe, I got a kidney stone. What should I do? So we talked about it, and he eats a very high-protein diet, this animal protein diet. So I suggested he get some lithotripsy, which is, again, it's a medical procedure where they send sound waves into it and shatter the kidney stone. I said, but then stop causing them.
Oh, okay.
We'll see if he does or not. I hope he does. So you increase the risk of kidney stone. So animal protein versus plant protein on the kidneys. I can eat the exact same amount of animal protein versus plant protein. Animal protein usually is going to cause kidney damage or can cause kidney damage. Plant protein, absolutely no kidney damage. So if you have kidney issues, one of the strong suggestions I'm going to give you is please stay away from animal proteins. Meat, butter, cheese, yogurt, eggs, ice cream, all that. Now, also, if you don't have enough fiber, when it gets down into your digestive system, creates something called short-chain fatty acids like butyrate. Now, butyrate is really important for the immune system. It keeps the body healthy, keeps the body young. And so if you don't have enough fiber, the fiber is the thing that converts into short-chain fatty acids, and that becomes an issue with the lining of your colon. So bottom line, and also your increased risk of osteoporosis, by the way, because a high-acid diet, the more acid you eat, the body has to neutralize that acid, and the body uses calcium as its primary neutralizing agent. So if I'm eating meat, butter, cheese, yogurt, eggs, ice cream, my body is taking calcium from my bones to neutralize the acid from the meat, like methionine and cysteine, the amino acids that are acidic, and we have to neutralize that. And so now I increase the risk of osteoporosis. So the only benefit I see to the ketogenic diet is quick weight loss, not healthy weight loss. A lot of it is going to be water and a lot of long-term side effects. Plus, they never mentioned the meat has steroids, chemicals, hormones, antibiotics, genetically modified food, glyphosate. Not a good idea. Okay, so I'm going to take the ketogenic diet off my recommendations. Intermittent fasting, it's not really a diet, it's a lifestyle protocol. But what you do, it focuses on not so much what you eat, but when you eat. Now, common patterns are 16 hours without eating, 8 hours by eating, 12 hours not eating, 12 hours eating. I like this. I'm a big fan of intermittent fasting. So regardless of your diet and lifestyle, I think you should go at least 12 hours a day without eating. Now, your first thought is 12 hours a day. I can't go 12 hours a day without eating. That's insane. All right, so if you have dinner at 5 o'clock at night, have breakfast at 5 o'clock in the morning or later. See how easy that was? Give yourself 12 hours. Digestion takes up a lot of energy, and the body heals and detoxifies and cleans itself out when you're sleeping. And so the less food you have in your colon when you're sleeping, the better off your detoxification process is. So I do at least 12 hours a day every day. Now, should it meet my schedule, I will then have maybe a late lunch like 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, and then stop and not have breakfast again until the next day. So the upsides of this is calorie control. You reduce snacking, and you're probably going to eat bad foods when you're snacking. It improves insulin sensitivity. This is great for diabetics unless their blood sugar crashes hard. If that's the case, I can help you with that. It can help weight loss. Fat reduction works great. It creates something called autophagy. Autophagy is when your body cleans itself up. It has cells that go in there and eat the bad stuff. And so it enhances autophagy. And no really specific food requirements on this one. It's strictly timing. The downside is the first couple of times you do this, you're going to get hungry. And we are so used to having a little bit of discomfort that we have to go ahead and eat something. Happens all the time, right? I'm hungry. I got to eat. It's okay to be hungry. I remember I was giving a lecture years ago. I was at a TV station. I was doing a TV show. And one of the producers came up to me when I was talking about diet and food and hunger. And she said, Dr. Joe, I learned something. I said, what's that? She says, it's okay to be hungry. What a concept. It's okay to be hungry. It doesn't hurt. It's just a little discomfort. And that's okay. And after a few times doing this, you're fine with it too. If you have an eating disorder, this is not a good idea. If you have an eating disorder, email me through my website, drjoe.com. We'll talk about some counseling on what to do about that. Might be difficult for social eating. Yes, that's an issue. Sometimes I get invited out to dinner. It's going to be 5 o'clock at night, 6 o'clock at night, 8 o'clock at night every now and then. So what do? I just push back my breakfast then. It's pretty simple. And if you start feeling low energy, that usually changes. Because once your body uses up all the sugar in your blood, it goes into something called glycogen. Glycogen is your stored energy. It's like your reserve gas tank. And once you use up all your glycogen, then you start burning fat, and then ultimately you may have to go into what's called gluconeogenesis, where your body produces its own glucose. So it's rare. if you get tired, stick it out for a couple of days. You're probably going to be fine. Now, when you're in this intermittent fasting, you can do things like supplements. I'll tell people when you're intermittent fasting, do Dr. Joe's Super Greens, Dr. Joe's Essential Source, B Complex, and vitamin D. And as long as you're under 50 calories, you're not going to break your fast. So I take those supplements. I tell them mix it with water, shake it up and drink it. And so many people say, Dr. Joe, I had such a hard time intermittent fasting. When I started getting hungry, I took the Super Greens, Essential Source, B Complex, and vitamin D. I feel great now. So that's a little trick you can do as well. So when it comes to health, intermittent fasting, absolutely thumbs up on that. Now, the ideal situation is intermittent fasting with the perfect diet. And we're going to talk about the perfect diet in just a second. Now, diet is one part of the overall health protocol. You also have to have a normally functioning digestive system and a normally functioning nervous system. So if you have neck pain, back pain, shoulder pain, numbness, tingling, headaches, sciatica, chances are you have a pinched nerve. So if I have an issue, whether it's with my car, it's with my air conditioner, whatever it is, my health, I want to think what's the most effective, least expensive treatment for this problem. So when it comes to pain, chiropractic care is the most effective, least expensive treatment for back pain. In most cases, not everybody, but most cases. So if you have pain, let's start out. Let's not go right to the surgeon and get cut on. Let's start with the most effective, least expensive protocol, which is chiropractic care. Then if we need to, we can do a nutritional workup. We can do things like acoustic wave therapy, cold laser. We can send you out to pain management doctors to do injections, medication, ultimately surgery. Of course, I prefer you don't get to the surgery if we don't have to. So if you have pain, I want you to do this. Go to my website right now, drjoe.com, drjoe.com. Book an appointment to come see us. In the Atlanta area, we have offices in Marietta, Duluth, and Stockbridge. I want to be your doctor. Normally, the first visit is $940. For you, my listeners, I've dropped that down to $299. That's an exam, x-rays, consultation, first treatment, going over the x-rays, and a complete nutrition evaluation. Any of those by themselves are going to cost you more than that. Why do I do that? I do that because I want to find out what's going to be the best course of treatment for you. Is it chiropractic? Is it surgery? Is it physical therapy? I don't know. Let's find that out, and then we'll go over our findings with you and say, okay, this is what we think is going to be best for you. drjoe.com. And we accept most insurances, car accidents, sports injuries. I want to be your doctor. I want you to get ethical care that's going to be the most effective, least expensive. So drjoe.com, and just make your appointment. Stop suffering needlessly. I hear it every day. Dr. Joe, why didn't I do this sooner? Why didn't somebody tell me that this was my answer? And now I did. So you can't use that excuse anymore. So if you're just tuning in, I'm Dr. Joe Esposito. What we're doing is we're talking today about what are the best diet plans. Because people ask me all the time, well, Dr. Joe, I did paleo, I did intermittent fasting, I did the high meat diet, the carnivore diet. That drives me insane. Okay, I'm going to eat like my ancestors. Oh, ancestors eat meat. Meat good. I get that. But our ancestors lived to about 20 years old, maybe 30. So I'm not sure that's a good argument. Either way, some people say, well, our ancestors ate a plant-based diet because we can tell by their teeth, and they ate a plant-based diet. Well, still, they only lived to about 30 years old. So I'm not sure that's a good argument either. I'll play devil's advocate on both sides. So just because our ancestors did it doesn't mean it was ideal. It might have been forced. We had to do it. Now, in our society, we have options, and we have scientific research, and we have supplements that our ancestors didn't have either. And we have knowledge of chiropractic care. We have knowledge of surgery. A lot of those things didn't exist with our ancestors. So just because somebody did it back then doesn't mean it's good. Let's go with the science that's current and credible that we know is working today. And so, we talked about the ketogenic diet, high animal fats, carnivore diet, pretty much sort of like ketogenic from what I can gather, is I'm just going to eat meat. Okay. I always say this too. If you want to do this, knock yourself out. Whatever makes you happy. But I tell my patients this too. Do what I say, and if I'm wrong, so what? So there's this thing called the paleo diet. Now, the paleo diet sounds better. Still not there yet, though. Encourages people to eat like our ancestors. Whole foods, lean meats, fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds. Now, they do eliminate processed foods in this diet. Agree with that 100%. They eliminate dairy. 100% agree with that. But they take out grains and legumes. And I'm not sure I'm too thrilled with that. In fact, I know I'm not too thrilled with that. So it's the unprocessed foods, which is great. It eliminates added sugar, which I agree, and refined foods, absolutely. Encourages high protein and healthy fats. Depends what your definition of that is. I don't think we need more protein, but all right, this is one of the benefits, so it said. You may have better blood sugar control, weight loss. Again, it's kind of like the ketogenic diet, and it emphasizes anti-inflammatory foods. I like it. The things I don't like, it's restrictive because you don't eat dairy, which I'm perfectly fine with. I haven't had dairy in 40 years, and that's fine. But the legumes and the grains and the beans, and I'm not a fan of that. Because if we look now, the people that live the longest lives, they live in what's called the blue zones. And people in the blue zones have one thing in common. And there's a couple of blue zones around the world. And they're in different cultures. They're at different altitudes. They're in different countries. They speak different languages. The one thing they have in common is they eat mostly a plant-based diet. Some eat exclusively a plant-based diet. But most of their diet, 80, 90% of their diet is plant-based. And that's things like legumes and beans, quinoa, nuts, seeds. So I don't like this part of the paleo diet because that doesn't make sense. If people are living longer and healthier without diseases, why wouldn't we follow that diet, which I'm coming to next, by the way? It can be expensive because you're eating a lot of grass-fed meats, and people make me laugh. People say, well, Dr. Joe, I tried eating plant-based and it's expensive. I said, let me tell you, a pound of beans is a heck of a lot cheaper than a pound of steak or a pound of butter or a pound of ice cream.
Oh, I never thought of it like that before.
So, again, social issues. That's a con. I don't really think that's an issue because I'm plant-based. I've never missed a meal, so I'm not sure that's a big issue. And there's not a lot of scientific backing behind this paleo diet. Again, it's kind of like the carnivore diet, but again, they're cutting out a lot of the beans and things like that, which carnivore diet does too. I'm not a fan. So that one's off the list. So far, what do we like? Intermittent fasting. So what is the one diet that science says is the best? And how do we make our lives look like this diet? So the one diet that everybody seems to agree upon, all scientists across the country, across the world, if they've done their research, it's called the Mediterranean diet. Now, it's eating patterns by people that live on the Mediterranean Sea. It focuses on fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, legumes, olive oil, and a little bit of organic poultry, and a little bit of wild-caught fish, and a little bit of alcohol. Now, I don't drink. If you do drink, I recommend you definitely take supplements because alcohol does a lot of things. Alcohol depletes your body of vitamins like B vitamins, nutrients. I always say if you're going to drink, take Dr. Joe's Super Greens, Dr. Joe's Essential Source, and Dr. Joe's B Complex. A second dose, you should be taking it in the morning anyway, take it right before going drinking. And I shouldn't tell you that because that sounds like I'm encouraging drinking, but people say, Dr. Joe, I feel so much better. Because you drink alcohol, what happens? You pee a lot, right? You're peeing out a lot of vitamins, minerals, and nutrients to get the alcohol flushed out of the system. We got to replace those nutrients. And so Super Green Essential Source and B Complex, a second dose, again, you should be taking it every day anyway, and see what happens there. Lots of evidence. It reduces heart disease, stroke, diabetes. It's flexible. It's sustainable. It's not very restrictive. It promotes nutrition. It gives you fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, vitamins, minerals, nutrients, fiber. It's great. Supports longevity, brain health. Some of the downsides, you might lose a lot of weight. Well, that could be a good thing. And again, what will happen is you'll hit what we call your set point, and then you'll stabilize. So don't worry about the weight loss. You'll be fine there. Olive oil can be expensive. If you're going to do olive oil, make sure you only get the best. And olive oil, this is how you know it's a good olive oil. It should come from one source, like Italy, Spain, Canada, California. And what you do, and it's got to be organic, take some olive oil, put it in the refrigerator. If it gets cloudy and hard, not even hard, but thicker, it's a good olive oil. If you take olive oil, put it in the refrigerator, it doesn't get cloudy and thick, it's junk. Somebody brought me the other day some hummus from this one, it's called the Jerusalem Bakery. And I said, oh, they probably use cheap olive oil in it. So I took it, I put it in my refrigerator. Next day, I took it out, and the oil was kind of congealing a little bit. I said, they use really good olive oil. I was so happy to see that. So a lot of benefits to this. It does require a little food prep, not that big a deal. And it does restrict the junk food, the processed foods too. Now, coming up, I'm going to talk about how do you make your life look like a healthy diet? How do you make this real life? Because I understand we all have busy schedules. We all have financial issues and time schedules. We're going to talk about incorporating this and making the ideal diet for you. If you have any questions, send them to me through my website, drjoe.com, drjoe.com. If you'd like to make an appointment, we have offices in Marietta, Duluth, and Stockbridge in the Atlanta area, or we can do remote consultations, of course. Please follow me on social media. Dr. Joe Esposito. Facebook is the Dr. Joe Esposito. We post every single day. And we have a podcast. So listen to when you're out walking or hiking or driving, Dr. Joe for the Health of It is the podcast. Dr. Joe for the Health of It. Folks, I'm Dr. Joe Esposito. Don't go anywhere. We're going to be right back. That's a half hour. We have a guest today. So, what you think? Cool stuff, isn't it? Yeah. I know, you're watching over there. So anyway, you got to run? Okay, good. Well, thank you for being here. I appreciate that. Yes, Dr. Stephanie. Yay. So, all right, send me the email. Right. Okay, good. All right, we got to go back to work here. John, you have any questions for me?
A comment from a listener. I just put my olive oil in the fridge.
Good. Excellent. If it gets cloudy overnight, you got a good one. If it doesn't get cloudy, bring it back to the store. It's junk. I've heard one study that 70 to 80% of all the olive oil sold in the United States is cut with soybean oils and other junk. So, what else?
What kind of pots should I use for cooking?
Stainless steel, a high-quality stainless steel, glass, or ceramic made in the United States. That's it. Those are the only ones you want to use. So many pots, and that's a big issue, actually. I've done shows on this before, a long time ago. Maybe I should do another one. They're aluminum. They leach chemicals into the food. So good quality stainless steel, like a surgical stainless steel or glass or ceramic, only made in the United States. If it's made outside the United States, we don't know what's in it. So those are your options. Pretty simple. You don't need a lot of pots. You just need quality. You can use cast iron, too. Cast iron made in the United States is okay, too. So what else?
How long have diet fads been around?
Since you had options of food. I think, probably in the caveman days, there wasn't a lot of options. But we can go back to Kellogg, who started he talked about grains, invented Kellogg cereal, and then his brother came along and adulterated it and added sugar to it. So that was the late 1800s. So I'd probably say, gosh, since civilization, there have been diet fads. So, and just because it's a fad doesn't mean it's bad. We talk about the Mediterranean diet. I consider that a fad, but it's a good one. So, all right. So John's got lots more questions for me.
What is the best brand for olive oil?
The only one I found that's even fairly affordable is Sprouts, the store Sprouts. Their organic one, either in glass or in the can. It comes from one source. It's organic. I put it in the refrigerator. It gets thick. I tried going to big box stores. I won't say their names. And I bought the big organic bottle, and it was so much cheaper. And I said, this is it, man. This is way cheaper. Put it in the refrigerator. Didn't get thick. And I said, okay, not for me. So Sprouts brand is my, and I have no affiliation with Sprouts. I just love their store. So what else?
Should I avoid cast iron?
If cast iron, if it's made in the United States, that's okay. Make sure you season it properly. If you know what cast iron is, you know how to do that. And that's okay, but it's got to be made in the United States. Made outside the United States may have toxic chemicals in it. So,
how often should I eat asparagus?
As often as you want. Asparagus is great, makes your pee stink. But other than that, asparagus is awesome. And it's wonderful, and it's very, very low in pesticides. Even the non-organic ones are extremely low in pesticides. It's called the Clean 15. There's the Dirty Dozen, which are the worst ones for pesticides, and Clean 15. Asparagus is one of the Clean 15. So, what else?
I get hungry a few hours after I eat, but if I push through it, I don't feel hungry anymore. Is that because my body is beginning to eat my fat cells?
Yeah. Your body, you first use glucose, then you use glycogen, then you burn fat. And so, so what's happening is your body says, oh, I'm hungry, feed me. Oh, you're not feeding me? I'll go to the reserve stores then. So that's perfect then. That's exactly what you should feel every day. So,
how do I make my body burn fat instead of muscle?
Ooh, there's a lot of things you can do for that. Of course, diet. Apple cider vinegar can help that. 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar can help with that. You should be using your muscles. When I do shows, like especially radio show, when I have commercials, I'll do 10 squats, sometimes 20 squats at every break. So by the end of a 2-hour show, I'm going to have 100 squats in. Absolutely. So now what I'm doing is I'm building big muscles, my butt, my legs, my thighs, and those are going to burn fat even when I'm not exercising. Staying away from processed foods, breads, cookies, cakes, donuts, pastas, ultra-processed foods, anything that has a label on it that you can't pronounce the ingredients, those are the foods that your body's going to utilize first. If you're eating fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds, your body's going to say, okay, I'm going to utilize what you gave me, then I'm going to go to the reserves. So you got to use the reserves. You're not going to burn muscle until you've used up all your fat reserves. So that's pretty far down the line. Now, if you do something like GLP-1 agonists, those drugs that you can inject to help you lose weight, 33%, up to 33% of the weight you lose is going to be muscle mass. So I do not recommend those. So the key with muscles is use the muscles. Do squats, do cross crawls. Do 100 cross crawls every day. You don't have to do them all at once. Do side bends. You can do side bends like this. And that'll help build up a muscle as well. But you got to use the muscles and make it utilize. Don't put junk in, and the body will utilize the fat. So.
Do you have a book that talks about the best diets?
Yes. Dr. Joe, Prescription for Extreme Health. It's on the website, drjoe.com. And you probably want to get the first book I ever wrote as well, called Eating Right for the Health of It. And that has recipes in it, and it talks about how to do it. Prescription for Extreme Health tells you why to do it. So you need both, kind of. Books are cheap. We can even send you a PDF if you want it. Yeah.
What is the best cheese to eat?
From under, right? No. From under here, from under there. No. High school joke. There is no good cheese to eat. Okay, there is no dairy products that I would suggest. Now, they have plant-based cheeses. They're not very healthy. They're not very tasty. So there is no good cheese to eat. Now, I'm Italian. I miss provolone cheese imported from Italy. So I don't eat it, though. It's not worth it. So I can't even tell you the best cheese. Certainly don't eat a processed American cheese food spread. I joked there wasn't a cow in a room when that stuff was made. But I don't recommend cheese. If you're going to do an animal product, and I wish you wouldn't, organic only, but I wouldn't recommend it. Just you ask. So, all right, what else?
That is all.
All right. A little sip of my tea here. All right, part 2. We lost our audience now. It's just John. John's always my audience, though. So. All right, ready? Hey, folks, Dr. Joe Esposito here. If you just joined us, welcome. If you stayed with me, I certainly appreciate that. I know everybody's so busy, but this is vital information. This is life-saving, life-changing information. And if that's your goal, which most people it is, they want to live longer, happier, healthier, and less expensive, that's where I come in. So we talked earlier about the different types of diets. We talked about the ketogenic diet, not a fan. Intermittent fasting, absolutely wonderful. The paleo diet, not a fan. Mediterranean diet, am a fan. So how do we incorporate all this knowledge, all this scientific research into your life? How can we make your life how can we make it work for your life? So the ingredients to a truly heart-healthy, life-changing diet and the foods to avoid to lower your heart disease, your cholesterol, your oxidized cholesterol, the rules are pretty simple. So when people come to me and they say, Dr. Joe, I want to know what to eat. And if you go to my website, by the way, drjoe.com, drjoe.com, and type, so what can I eat in the search bar, I did like a 45-minute talk on that. It was just me in a studio one day. And we talked about breakfast, lunches, dinner, snacks, Christmas, raising kids, holidays, stocking your pantry, unstocking your pantry. What should you have on hand on a regular basis? And so we talk about that, break it down really simply, really easily. And the nice part is, people respond differently to different foods. There is no cut and dry plan. But the one plan that seems to work best for most people is a plant-based diet. Now, I always say, what if? We say if you're going to eat animal products, please, 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 organic only. Or don't eat them. That's the option too. So that's really the plan that works for me. Some people, well, I like my meat, Dr. Joe. Okay, if you're going to eat meat, organic only. I can't give up my cheese. How many people say that? Okay, can't give up my cheese. There's a reason behind that. In cheese, there's a chemical, a protein called casomorphine. Caso means milk and morphine means morphine. So these chemicals, these casomorphines, when you ingest them, they attach to your morphine receptor sites. And morphine receptor sites are places where morphine, like the drug morphine, gets absorbed into the body. And so they attach onto these morphine receptor sites and you get high from it. So I'll ask people about cheese, and I'll say, Dr. Joe, I can't give up my cheese. There's no way. I can give up my milk. I'm fine with giving up my milk, but I can't give up my cheese. Wait a minute. Cheese is made from milk. So logically, that makes no sense. It's the same thing. The difference is it's concentrated. In cheese, we take out the water, we concentrate down these casomorphines. So when you're eating cheese and you love your cheese and you can't get enough of it, chances are you're getting high from it. So if you use artificially processed cheese food spread, not a lot of casomorphine, you're okay with it. You use a vegan cheese, you're okay with that. Eat a regular cheese, man, I love this stuff. So the casomorphines are actually making you feel good. But at what cost? And the cost is extremely high. Not money, but health. And so that's why I don't recommend cheeses. There's a lot of downside and not a lot of upside. So stay away from the cheeses if you can. And again, there are the vegan cheeses. I've tried them. Some of them are okay. Nothing really as good as the real thing. I think Bono had a song about that with U2, right? Ain't nothing but the real thing, or nothing like the real thing. But there's a cost to that. And so I don't recommend eating dairy products. And if you go to my website, drjoe.com, and just type dairy in the search bar, I did a whole hour or two show on dairy. I did it on all 7 deadly sins. If you don't know what 7 deadly sins are, maybe you're new to the show. 7 deadly sins are alcohol, meat, sugar, dairy, coffee, soda, and artificial sweetener. Now, if you're new to this, you just said, Dr. Joe, that's my whole life. I don't want to talk to you anymore. I don't like you anymore. I had a patient come in the other day. He's, 60, 70, 85 years old. And he comes in, he says, Dr. Joe, I want to live as long as I possibly can. I said, okay. He said, I'll do whatever you say. I said, okay. And he looked at me and he says, I gave up your 7 deadly sins, alcohol, meat, sugar, dairy, coffee, soda, and artificial sweetener. And I just smiled. He had them right in order. He had them it was just beautiful. And he said, I gave them up and my whole life changed. And he looks me straight in the eye with tears in his eyes and he says, I'd be dead if it wasn't for you. And we've never even met. And I got a little choked up. I said, that's beautiful. Thank you. He said, no. He says, I said, I go to a senior housing group twice a week and they feed us junk. He says, and I was eating junk because it was quick. I'm a single man. I'm a widow. And I'm just eating whatever's fast and quick and cheap. And he says, I started listening to you. He says, I listened to your podcast. I listened to your radio shows. And you blew my mind because you made sense. So I took your challenge. I took your 60-day challenge, he says, and it changed my life. And I just want to thank you. Isn't that cool? So it worked. Works for 85-year-old men. Works for everybody. So I wish you'd cut them out. But if you're not willing to cut out the 7 deadly sins, at least cut back on the 7 deadly sins. And I negotiate every one of them with you. Artificial sweetener. Well, don't use them. Use stevia or Lohan. That's fine. If you're going to eat meat and dairy products, at least do organic and limit it to about 10% of your diet. If you're going to do soda, do a soda sweetened with stevia as opposed to the artificial sweetener junk or the sugar stuff, which is just as bad, if not worse. Alcohol. If you're going to drink alcohol, at least take Super Greens, Essential Source, Beef Complex, and Vitamin D, a second dose before you have a drink to mitigate some of the damage from the alcohol. So we did alcohol, meat, sugar, stevia. Again, we got dairy, coffee. If you're going to do coffee, I wish you wouldn't, but if you're going to do coffee, please do organic only. Because coffee is one of the most highly sprayed foods there are when it comes to toxic chemicals. And coffee oftentimes gets fungus growing on it. So what do? We spray it with fungicides, and when you drink the coffee, you're drinking the fungicides. When you roast the coffee, you create something called acrylamides, which are linked to cancer. So I did a show on alcohol, meat, sugar, dairy, coffee, soda, and artificial sweetener, each one of them, and I did a group show as well. So if you want a specific topic, just go to my website, drjoe.com, type it in. And we have everything: blood pressure, diabetes, weight loss, women's health issues, men's health issues, cholesterol. We have shows and podcasts and everything on the website. Great source of information. But I digress. We're talking about how to make the perfect diet. So there were 2 studies came out, and they wanted to find out the impact of diet on cardiovascular health specifically. So one study appeared in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition. It was conducted by researchers in Singapore. And they found that people with type 2 diabetes, at first, they showed some response when they went to a plant-based diet. But eating plant-based meat substitutes, these fake hamburgers, fake meatballs, offered no significant health benefits over the actual meat. Pretty surprising. And the problem wasn't so much that it was a plant-based diet, it was these meat substitutes. These meat substitutes are made with autolyzed yeast, hydrolyzed vegetable protein, which is a lot of glutamic acid, which is a cytotoxin to the brain, tons of plain table salt, not a good idea. And then they did a study, and they found that experts, this was in Athens, Georgia, and they analyzed the participants, and they found 89% of those consumed more than double the ideal allowance of salt based, compared to the American Heart Association recommendation. Now, the problem with salt is that they're using table salt, sodium chloride. The salt you want to use is Celtic salt, air-dried sea salt. These has over 70 different nutrients in it and is actually good for you. Plain table salt, bad for you. So again, I'm going to negotiate everything with you. If you're going to do salt, air-dried sea salt. If you're going to do animal products, organic only. If you're going to do coffee, organic only. If you're going to do meats, organic only. You're going to do alcohol, Super Green Essential Source B Complex and vitamin D. Sugar, we have stevia, Lohan, xylitol. We have sugar substitutes. Soda, you're going to do soda sweetened with stevia. So when I first said alcohol, meat, sugar, dairy, coffee, soda, and artificial sweetener, everybody loses their mind. That's my whole diet. I'm going to die. And then I give them the breakdown. I go, oh, I could do that. And my goal is to help you live as long as possible and save as much money as possible. So it's pretty cool. So the plant-based diet, the Mediterranean diet, is going to be the best diet, but they're not all plant-based diets are good for you. So one of the many benefits of plant-based diet is decrease your risk of heart disease and type 2 diabetes, but they're not all created equal. Now, you can eat yellow sponge cakes filled with white cream. Okay? Wow, that sounds like it's tasty. Well, it's junk food. Cookies, chocolate cookies with cream inside. I won't say brand names. They're vegan. Doesn't mean it's good for you. Potato chips are usually vegan. Pretzels, seasoned with a bunch of junk, could be vegan. So just because it's vegan and plant-based doesn't mean it's good. Plant-based is, well, I shouldn't say that. Just because it's vegan doesn't mean it's good. Plant-based, by definition, is very low ultra-processed foods and more fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds. That's plant-based versus vegan, which is just no animal products. So I consider myself a vegan, but I consider myself a plant-based vegan, not a junk food vegan. And there's a big difference there. You know, vegan diet excludes animal products, but people say, well, it's not diverse enough. I don't know what to eat. I've been plant-based now for 40 years, almost 40 years. I'm just shy of 40 years. I've never missed a meal. I've gone on dates. I go give lectures. I've gone on cruises. I've traveled all around the world. I speak at conferences all the time. Never missed a meal. There's always something. So one of my friends, my friend Fred, very dear friend of mine for about 45 years now, and he's getting on in his years. He's in his 80s. And he likes to go to a steakhouse. So when we get together, he's in North Georgia, and I drive up, and we meet at a steakhouse. And he has a piece of salmon, and he has broccoli, and he has a baked potato. He knows exactly what he wants. Now I'm at a steakhouse. They ain't looking to serve me, okay? So what do? I get side orders. I get the sweet potato. I get the broccoli. I get the mushrooms. I get the salad. I'm fine. How much food can you eat? You can only eat so much food. So I make better choices that way. Now, plant-based diets are just booming in popularity because people are realizing that double-blind scientific research clearly shows things like the Mediterranean diet, mostly plant-based, with a little bit of seafood and a little bit of chicken, is the ideal diet. Now, take it one step further, drop out the seafood, chicken, and fish. Now we've got a better option, and wine. But I'm also a realist, and I understand that not all of you is going to say, I'm going to jump in with both feet and do this. But I can tell you this. I've been coaching people for about 45 years. My career plus when I was in school, I started about halfway through my career in school. I've never had anyone come to me and say, Dr. Joe, I took your nutritional advice, and I wish I never did. No one's ever said that. That's a pretty good track record. And when I talk about supplements, I don't believe supplements are a luxury. I believe they're a necessity. I can't imagine not waking up and taking my supplements every day, unless I'm still intermittent fasting. But even then, I can take my supplements. They don't break my fast. I use water then. So the minimum supplements I would suggest are Dr. Joe's Super Greens and Dr. Joe's Essential Source. I was at an event the other day. This guy came up to me, Paul, and he says, hey. I said, what? He goes, supplements are awesome. He says, love them, changed my life. I said, thank you. He says, the Super Greens taste like grass. Now we have plain, mint, and berry. And he said, Super Greens taste like grass. I take it every day. Amazing results. I've never felt better in my entire life, but I don't like the flavor. I said, try the mint or the berry. He said, oh, okay. So I take Super Greens every morning. I take Essential Source every morning. Vitamin D3, I take 10 drops. I put it in my Super Greens and Essential Source, and I shake it up, and I can use coconut milk, almond milk, water, whatever you like. But I would recommend the berry flavor or the mint flavor Super Greens, and we have plain Essential Source, which is a multivitamin, and we have peach mango. Those are both fine. Nobody complains about those flavors. And so if you've tried them in the past, we have new flavors now. And I want you to come back and try them again. And I keep trying to invent new things that are more palatable. And again, it's not unpalatable. The Super Greens grass, I'm not going to lie, it tastes like grass. But people just love them. And once you take them, even for a few days, totally changes your life. So if you're looking for supplements, again, a minimum would be Super Green Essential Source, B Complex, and Vitamin D. They're on my website, drjoe.com, drjoe.com. Very simple. So we're talking today about the ultimate diet. What is the ultimate diet? And research clearly says it's the Mediterranean diet. I take it one step further and take out the animal proteins and the alcohol. Now, one of the things we talked about a little earlier on vegan diets is the ultra-processed foods. Ultra-processed foods, by definition, and there's different definitions, has ingredients that you wouldn't have in the average kitchen. So if you could make it in your kitchen, the average person, you might have it in the kitchen right now, but it's something you would have in an average person. But commercially produced breads, cookies, cakes, donuts, pastas, carbonated beverages, prepackaged snacks, flavored dairy drinks, breakfast cereals, energy bars, instant soups, this ramen stuff, just junk. Please stay away from that. So the ultra-processed foods are so bad. And one of the reasons I believe that even things like the paleo diet or the carnivore diet, people see health benefits to those. Again, I think the negative far outweigh the positive, is because they cut out the ultra-processed foods. It's not eating more meat and butter is good for you. It's that cutting out the ultra-processed foods is better for you. And so what if we can cut out the ultra-processed foods and then add really healthy foods? Now we got a winner. My father used to say that. That's a winner. Now we have a winner. And so that's the goal that I'm shooting for. So the ultra-processed foods, they account for about half of the caloric intake of people in middle and high-income countries. Half. So if we can get those out of the diet, regardless of what you replace it with, you're probably going to see some results. I've had people start taking supplements and say, Dr. Joe, these supplements are miracles. I've never felt so good in my life. I have more energy. I'm sleeping better. My love life improved. I'm able to perform in the bedroom. All sorts of things start to happen. And what that tells me is their body was so nutritionally deficient that even a little bump like that would help. So I want to take it to the extreme. I used to date a girl, and when I was studying nutrition, and I said something about patients always talk about moderation. And I love this line. She said, moderation is for monks. I want extreme health. That's kind of where the title for my second book came from, Prescription for Extreme Health. And I just love that line. I don't want regular health. I want extreme health. And so, yeah, moderation is for monks. I want to go all in when it comes to health. Now, if you're not going to do that, that's okay. At least do 80%. One study found, they did over 100,000 adults over a 5-year period. They observed that even a 10% increase in consumption of ultra-processed food was associated with higher risk of heart disease and stroke. So we have this society that's pumping out these toxic chemicals, 50% of your diet. Then we have a medical system that treats it. Treats the symptoms, doesn't treat the cause. So this is a radical approach to healthcare, I know. I want to get to the cause of your healthcare problems, not just treat the symptoms. So if you have neck pain, back pain, shoulder pain, numbness, tingling, what's the first thing we can do to get rid of the pain? Take some drugs. Do they work? Most cases, yeah, to get rid of the pain. But they don't fix the cause. How many people do you know ever took blood pressure medication and it fixed their high blood pressure? How many people you know took insulin ever fixed their diabetes? That's not designed for that. It's designed to treat the symptoms, and that's okay. That's the business model. My business model is let's get to the cause of your problems. If you have back pain, what's the number one treatment for back pain? Chiropractic care. Most effective, least expensive treatment. So if you have neck pain, back pain, shoulder pain, radiating pain, numbness, tingling, headache, sciatica, come see us. In the Atlanta area, we have offices in Marietta, Duluth, Stockbridge. I want to be your doctor. Let's get to the cause of your healthcare problems. Let's look at a diet that science has shown might be able to help some people with type 2 diabetes. Don't stop your medication, but let's see what we can do. Let's put together a protocol, a nutritional protocol that may help some people with high cholesterol. Don't stop your medication. Let's work together, getting to the cause of the problem. How about digestive issues, acid reflux? How many people have it? Raise your hands. A lot of you do. Stomach is pushed up against the diaphragm. There's actually a technique we use where we can actually pull the stomach down away from the diaphragm. And in most cases, we see amazing results. It's the number 2 reason we see patients. Number 1 is pain. Number 2 is digestion. So if you have pain, it's usually a pinched nerve. Let's unpinch the nerve. If you have digestive problems, let's pull the stomach away from the diaphragm. Everybody needs a nutrition evaluation. I do. I evaluate myself on almost a daily basis. What can I do to get the best food in my body? What are going to be the best supplements to take? You know, we talked about Super Green, Essential Source, nitric oxide. Nitric oxide opens up blood vessels. Didn't even talk about that today. I take nitric oxide every day. It increases circulation to your heart, your brain, your sex organs, your liver, your spleen. Can help lower blood pressure. It's amazing. People take it a half hour later, like, oh my gosh, what's in this stuff? I feel amazing. So all the supplements are on our website, drjoe.com. If you have any questions about the supplements, send me an email through the website, drjoe.com. Happy to answer your questions for you. Follow me on social media. We post every single day. You're going to get 1-minute tips every single day. If you like the long version of things, just go to YouTube. I have the long version of my lectures there. Our website has over 4,000 hours of content on it. So you can search the website, send me questions, make an appointment to come see us. Normally the first visit for exam, x-rays, consultation, first adjustment, going over the x-rays, and a complete nutrition evaluation is normally $940. For you, my listeners, I've reduced that to $299. Why did I do that? Because I want to find out what's the best course of treatment for you. I want to take away as many barriers as I can to say, okay, this is going to be the best course of treatment for you. Maybe it's chiropractic. Maybe it's nutrition. Maybe it's medicine. Maybe it's surgery. I don't know. But let's get an objective analysis to determine what's going to be the best option for you. We accept almost all insurances, car accidents, sports injuries. If the car is damaged, you're damaged. I've never seen it any other way. So if you're in an accident, please come see us right away. Don't waste time. Let us evaluate you. If there's a problem, we'll tell you. If it's not, we'll tell you that too. So book your appointment, drjoe.com, drjoe.com. Let's get to the cause of your healthcare problems. Can't promise results, but I can tell you get amazing results in most cases. So studies show that vegan and vegetarian diets have some issues. Let's talk about the issues. You might be low in vitamin B12, and you might be low in omega-3 fatty acids. What do? I take Dr. Joe's B complex with methylated B12 in it, and I take Dr. Joe's vegan omega made from algae oils, because omega-3 fatty acids are essential for proper brain function, controlling inflammation, so many different things. That's why it's called an essential fatty acid. You have to get it from an outside source. So I take omega-3 fatty acids every day. I take men's hormone support to balance out my hormones. As I'm getting older, my hormones are changing. I want to boost them up. I take adrenal support, which also helps the hormones and energy. I eat a clean diet to clean out my arteries. I get chiropractic care on a regular basis, even though it doesn't hurt. 90% of the nerves in your body don't feel pain. I'll say that again. 90% of the nerves in your body don't feel pain. You can have pinched nerves and not know it. So my team of expert doctors, I consider, in my opinion, some of the finest in the world, if not the finest in the world, we check the nerves that feel pain and we check the nerves that don't feel pain. So we check the nerves, we check the digestion, we look at the diet. I take supplements every day. I think you should too. And if you want to do all of it, do some of it. At least take the supplements. At least get the stomach checked. At least get your spine checked. Do something. Because the biggest complaint I get, and I get it every single day for 40 years in practice, why didn't I do this sooner? Why did I suffer for so long? And my answer is always, I don't know. So your friends, your family, your children, get them checked out. drjoe.com. So again, deficiencies, yeah, that's one of the arguments against plant-based diet. You might be low in B12. Take a supplement. If you eat other diets, you're going to be low in everything else, including fiber in most cases. So let's take that. Vitamin D3, I take it every day too. I take it with vitamin K2. Because D3 does many, many things, including absorb calcium. Vitamin K2 takes the calcium out of your blood and puts it in the bones. If you have calcium buildup in your arteries, you may be deficient in K2. And it's a real simple, easy, inexpensive, safe thing to do. I do it every day. I think you should too. So one of the things that plant-based diets help, of course, longevity, but it may reduce muscle loss, called sarcopenia. As we get older, our muscles become weaker. And I see it in my friends. People my age and older, they just look so weak. Because sarcopenia, you lose about 1% of your muscle mass per year. So 20 years, 20% of your muscle mass is gone. But the plant-based diet can help and also can help with obesity because it's very, very rare that somebody is on a plant-based diet and they're obese. So I don't see a downside to taking supplements. I don't see a downside to getting your nervous system checked. I don't see a downside to at least making some better choices in your life. So you want to increase your risk of fruits, non-starchy vegetables, green leafy vegetables, quinoa, spelt, grains are very good for you, and you can add some of those into your life. Beans, nuts, seeds, and you're going to get more than enough protein. And if you need more protein, if you have any specific health issues, just send me an email through the website, drjoe.com. Little bot pops up, says, hey, want to chat? I'll answer your questions. I answer about 20, 30 questions a day. I'm happy to answer your questions for you. Follow me on social media, Dr. Joe Esposito. Facebook is the Dr. Joe Esposito. We post every single day. If you don't like it, unfollow me. Sign up for our newsletter, please. It's right there on the first page of our website, drjoe.com. We send out tips on when we're doing a podcast, special pop-up lectures, sometimes specials on supplements. If you don't like it, unsubscribe. drjoe.com. Sign up for the newsletter. Follow me on social media. The podcast is Dr. Joe for the Health of It. Dr. Joe for the Health of It. Listen to podcasts instead of anything else so we can get you well and keep you well. I'm Dr. Joe Esposito. Thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you next time. All right. I came close this time. I only had about 4 pages left. That's pretty close to my notes. All right. What else you got?
What are the healthiest teas?
Oh, gosh, there's so many. A clove tea is great. One of my favorite teas is I'll take just organic cloves and anise seed. And anise tastes like licorice, and I'll put maybe a half a teaspoon of each in a cup of water and steep it. I love that tea. Sprouts is one of those places where I have bulk herbs, so you don't have to buy a big thing of it. Buy a little bit, see if you like it. I do slippery elm tea. Slippery elm is what I'm drinking here. Slippery elm helps coat your mucous membranes, your sinuses, your throat, your sex organs, your colon. I speak a lot, and so I got to make sure I take care of my instruments here. And so I like slippery elm tea. Licorice tea is great. Licorice tea is great for the adrenal glands. Cinnamon tea is great for stabilizing blood sugar. So if it's a caffeine-free organic herbal tea, I'm fine with it. So that's what I'd recommend. And there's plenty out there. Ginger tea is amazing. I make a lot. In fact, I made ginger tea this weekend. I got some organic ginger. I peeled it, which is a little challenging. I got a glove that I wear when I use my peeler. Otherwise, I peel the top of my finger off. And you can get them in a kitchen store. I take the peeled ginger. I put it in a food processor, covered about halfway with organic lemon juice. You can buy bottled or squeeze it fresh. Puree the heck out of it until it's really broken down. The strings are broken down. And I pour it in an ice cube tray. Freeze it overnight, and I've got these ginger lemon ice cubes, and I'll put it in a cup of water, and I'll sweeten it with some stevia. Amazing. But ginger is anti-inflammatory. It increases bile production, so it'll help you digest fats more effectively. It's an aphrodisiac, so be careful with that part. But gosh, there are so many different teas. Yeah, turmeric tea, golden milk, which is made with turmeric tea and a plant-based milk like coconut. So I don't know. That's just off the top of my head. What else you got?
What are the healthiest eggs?
Healthiest eggs? Oh, eggs. Okay. This is the healthiest X. I don't have any healthy X's. That's why they're X's. So if you're going to do eggs, I wish you wouldn't, but if you're going to do eggs, organic only. Not pasture, free range. They got a picture of a hen house on it. Organic. Woo. Organic is the only word that matters. Organic eggs. So, and don't cook them too much. The less you cook them, the more nutrients there are. Don't eat them raw, but like sunny side up would be a better choice. What else you got?
What is the best type of pizza to eat?
Best type of pizza to eat? Gosh, I don't know about that one. If you're going to do, I'm Italian too. This is hard for me to say. You can do a cauliflower crust, a gluten-free cauliflower crust. If it has eggs in it, make sure it's organic eggs, and that would probably be your best bet. Organic tomato sauce, and if you want to do vegan cheeses or slice of tomato, garlic. Garlic is great, antibiotic, antiviral, antifungal. Oregano, antibiotic, antiviral. Yeah, I'm going to guess a cauliflower gluten-free pizza dough with no eggs, but if it has eggs, make sure it's organic. So, wish I had a better answer for you because I miss my pizza. So, what else you got?
Can you explain why postmenopausal women need creatine?
Yeah, creatine helps build muscle mass. So you can do a plant-based creatine. You don't need a whole lot. In fact, I'm thinking about coming out with a creatine supplement, to be honest with you. but a little scoop, I mean, tiny, tiny amount, maybe half a teaspoon every day. And creatine just helps build muscle mass because postmenopausal women, like all of us, have sarcopenia. Sarcopenia is loss of muscle mass. And so the only way to build it is to put stress on the muscles, and a little bit of plant-based creatine probably isn't going to be so bad for you. So I'm okay with that. And don't be surprised if my next time I get into the lab, I may come up with a vegan creatine. I have some ideas already. So what else got?
Do you have a video on your site about shockwave or sound therapy for knee repair?
Yes, it should be on. I know we have an article on it. I don't know if it's a shot, if it's a video. Do we have the video? I know I made a video with Dr. Amy one day. Anyway, yeah, just go to acoustic wave therapy or shockwave therapy on my website, and if it's not there, send me an email and I'll send you the video that Dr. Amy and I did. So, all right, what else?
What are your thoughts on chia seeds?
Chia seeds are great. Soak them and use them. Use them every day if you want to. I think they're great. You grind them up even better because when you grind them, you free up all the nutrients. If you just soak them, you're going to pass right through you. It's just source of fiber. If you grind them, you're releasing those omega-3 fatty acids, those ALA fatty acids, so it's good. So, what else?
What do you think about allulose as a sweetener?
Allulose is fine. Absolutely no problem whatsoever. Please feel free to use it. Enjoy it. Has my blessing. There you go. My mother always said I was going to adjust the Pope someday, so not this one, but maybe the new one I'll be able to adjust the Pope someday. So. Anything else? John's scanning right now. We get a lot of questions when you do this, folks. We only pick out the good ones, so just forgive us here. We got so much going on. So,
what do you think about Theraflu?
Theraflu, the drug? It's a drug. It has side effects. I'm not a fan of it. If you go to our website, drjoe.com, and just type in immunity, it'll give you a lot of information on how to build immunity naturally. And you got to remember, if you take a drug and you're not sick, it can make you sick. Now, I'm not against drugs. Please understand that. If you're suffering, maybe you need some medication. I'm not against that. But always say, why was I sick? What can I do to build up my immune system? And what can I do to mitigate the side effects of the medication? And that's where I teach you every day. Supplements, fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, good diet, chiropractic care. Tons of studies on chiropractic care stimulating the immune system. So, yeah, chiropractic care is a big player when it comes to immunity. So, what else?
I have COVID. I've been sick all weekend with dehydration, sore throat, everything like that. What do you recommend?
Dr. Joe's Wellness Booster and Dr. Joe's Seasonal Tonic. Order it right now. John will ship it out today if he can. You'll get it either tomorrow or the next day if you're local. And I want you to take a dose of each every hour. Wellness Booster helps build the immune system. And Seasonal Tonic is ginger, horseradish, cayenne pepper, onion, and garlic in an apple cider vinegar, and now it helps fight the virus. So, Wellness Booster, Seasonal Tonic, vitamin D. I would say probably 50 drops a day until you start feeling better, then cut it back to 10. And then Super Greens, an essential source. So Super Greens, essential source, Wellness Booster, Seasonal Tonic, and vitamin D. Order them right now on the website, drjoe.com. John will go back and see your order. He'll ship it out today. And take that. And if you have questions, email me. Stay away from sugar. Sugar is like taking steroids. It just shuts down your immune system. So fruits and vegetables, nuts and seeds. I had COVID too, and I didn't miss a day of work. You know, I didn't realize I had it until I tested, and then I tested positive. The weekend came, I tested Monday, I was negative. But yeah, it's not fun, but we can do this. So that's what I'd recommend.
That is all.
All right, thanks, guys. I appreciate you. Hope you feel better with your COVID. The supplements should help. Super Green Essential Source, D, Wellness Booster, Seasonal Tonic. And please follow me on social media on all platforms. That's what I ask. I give you all this information for free. Follow me.